Can you hear me now? Interesting. Wait, now you can hear me. Maybe I don't need this. Ooh. Okay. I was trying to use these fancy speakers, but I guess they... I'm a mess. I did that thing again where I'm vibing and... also the schedule was running late. Often these things do run late. And I wasn't sure of a good moment to duck out. And that's why one of my advisors always tells me, I can hear the dog sniffing in the mic. Oh. I just turned the mic off, so no more sniffing. Huh, Yoshi? Huh? Hi, Yoshi. So I was at a Palestinian gala today at the AstroTurf in Plainsville, and it was just amazing. They had a choir with all this different Palestinian music. I think one of them was like an original song, and then they had like a mini little documentary. It was hosted by a group called We Will Return. And they're dedicated to having Palestinians be able to return to the lands that were taken from them after the Nakba. And so there was a documentary on that. Then there was a buffet, delicious food. I love food. Although a lot of us were hoping that it'd be Middle Eastern food, it was kind of like wedding style food, which is still delicious. And then there was a raffle, and then I don't remember the name of the dance, but it's like a specific Palestinian style of dance. It almost looks like a combination between Irish step dancing and like Russian dancing. And so at the end they had us all join, and so that lasted, and I was like, well, I want to join in on the dancing because dancing is dissent is fun, and fun fights fascism. So yeah, that is the long and short of why I am late, so I do apologize. Yes, that Senator Blumenthal voted no against blocking arms sales to an apartheid state that is committing genocide. Yes, I did see that. I was very angry, although unsurprised, because that is just, he's bought off by AIPAC. I'm actually surprised the number of senators who voted in favor of the bill. That was like 40 of them, was a record. But of course it does not shock me that Blumenthal voted against that. And then I saw his son is a bit of a thorn in trying to get ranked choice voting passed in this state. And so not a cute look for either of the Blumenthal boys. Yeah, I want to call both Blumenthals. One for genocide, one for trying to... the establishment Democratic Party infrastructure is just so corrupt, so high school girls, such... it's such disingenuous bullshit. Pardon my French. But hi, Yoshi. Ooh. I wish more people would call up their offices, and then I do hear conflicting stories that like some offices actually do. Why do you think about what? I'm sure if you call Blumenthal's office, he'll send you that patronizing, generic response of, Israel's our closest ally and Israel's democracy in the Middle East and the only democracy in the Middle East. But started writing a question and then I went to delete it, and yeah, I've done that before. I would like to suggest that Israel cannot be a democracy because in a democracy, I don't believe you can have just two different sets of criminal punishment based off of ethnicities. And so an ethno state, I think, is kind of, I don't think democracy and ethno states can exist simultaneously. I think they're mutually exclusive. So he's just going to send you something that is probably going to be ultra aggravating. So on December 24th of last year, there was, I think it was in Cheshire, and there's a boy that was abducted by ICE, and Blumenthal, I guess, did help in getting him returned, which is awesome. That's great. But the child should never have been snatched up off the streets to begin with, and that snatching happened with ICE. And I love how the Democrats are all like, Trump and ICE, and it's just like, yeah, he made it a lot worse. But the establishment Democrats have voted in favor of ICE budgets every year. Biden and Obama, they had children ripped away from their families. I need to do more research on this, or someone do the research for me, that I believe there was still abuses of due process in the... Sorry. This is what I have to deal with on the campaign trail. Day in the life. But yeah, so I had approached him and I said, hi Yoshi. I said to him, like, would you commit to abolishing ICE? Because if ICE didn't exist, this wouldn't happen to begin with. And he did that whole roundabout thing with how we need to, how we need to, oh my God, I'm just losing my train of thought. Reform. He's like going on with the whole reform thing. And I'm just like, you cannot reform Gestapo. You cannot reform that agency. It is awful. What do I think of Democrats posting tax the rich? I thought that was rich. Excuse me? Hi, Yoshi. And it's gone. I mean, I'm wondering which Democrat posted that, because it obviously wasn't Newsom, because he's trying to work against the billionaire tax. It's obviously not Kathy Hochul, because she is trying to work against the billionaire tax. It's obviously not Ned Lamont, because he's not going to do anything about the billionaire tax. But on topic of Ned Lamont, there is a challenger to Ned Lamont this year. His name is Josh Elliott, and Josh Elliott will tax the billionaires. And so if you do not know Josh Elliott, I would encourage you all to go to his website, joshforct.com, and actually, have Democrats that will stand by those words, because I know Senator Warren and Senator Sanders released two wealth tax proposals with different variations. I think Sanders goes directly for billionaires, and Warren's is like the ultra millionaires. I don't know if Rosa has signed on to either of them, but it'll be interesting to see what they do, because at the end of the day, they're all owned by these people. So Rosa DeLauro, she takes money from, SpaceX and Blue Origin, which are owned by Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And so I do have some reservation that you are committed to abolishing, I'm for abolishing billionaires. But taxing billionaires, if you're accepting money from them, that just doesn't sit the right way. ICE is a redundant organization, and so a lot of times people will ask me, because I think we need to abolish ICE, and people will ask me, like, well, what do you do about crime? And I'm like, we have police. Police already respond to crime. Now, the police need to be reformed. We need some reformations there. I do not think that the police should be able to buy military-style equipment. I don't believe that, police should just be able to randomly turn off their body cameras. I also don't think that police should be taking the lead role in responding to, definitely mental health crises, but I think that we need to do some heavy investing so that mental health counselors and people who understand the psyche of the human brain can take lead and guide the situation, and then just have like a police officer for their safety, but they cannot discharge their weapon unless given expressed authority by the lead person, who is not a possibly gun trigger happy. But in any case, you don't need ICE, because you could just have, if someone commits a crime, then the police respond to crime. If they are a undocumented immigrant, then they will, if a crime's a crime, the undocumented immigrant could be referred to a reformed Immigration and Naturalization Services, is what existed before 2003. I know that there were some issues with the Haitians. Abolishing ICE is the moderate position, and not only do we need to abolish ICE, but we need to persecute every single person that is, has violated human rights and constitutional rights. We need to prosecute the people in the administration that were the leaders of this. We need to prosecute, I believe, companies that have contracts with ICE, and I think we need to prosecute the politicians that accepted money from these from these corporations that have contracts with ICE, because at the end of the day, all of that has to exist for ICE to exist. It is all interconnected, and they all had a hand in it, and there are varying levels of accountability that have to be taken, but everyone who has supported this structure need to be held accountable. So I've actually proposed 3 select committees. One select committee on ICE abuses, one select committee on the Epstein files, and then a select committee on the G-side in Palestine. So I heard for an IQ test for police, I heard that you cannot be too low, but you also cannot be too high of an IQ. And I hate saying that, but I'm pretty sure that is true. Corporate Democrats are completely exhausting. They just spew out corporate talking points and then use our identities and patronize us into voting for them because Trump bad, which I did say to a Democratic Party member, and they were not happy with that. But that has just been their messaging for the past 10 years. Vote for us because Trump bad. And at some point, it's just like, can we have a message besides someone else is bad? Like, what are you going to do for our future? Like, I don't know, easy things, Medicare for all, education, funding our special education needs, affordable housing, decommodify housing, decommodify education, decommodify healthcare, build public transit that actually connects the country, and then build local, scaled up, integrated public transit so that people can, not have to rely on gas guzzling cars. And even if you do have an electric vehicle, I would hope that it is better than a gas-powered vehicle, but I know the extraction process for what makes the batteries and the manufacturing process, that is also a lot of destruction to the environment. And so I once heard someone say that the electric vehicle is not designed to save the planet. It's here designed to save the car industry, because at the end of the day, it is still much more beneficial for the environment and for just even urban planning and just not having awful, gross highways everywhere to have public, well-funded, public, integrated, scaled up transit. And so that is what this campaign is about and other campaigns across the country. I'm a part of an organization called Courage for Democracy, and there's like 150 other leftists, progressives, Democrats that are challenging establishment Democrats or vulnerable Republicans. And these people, like, we have a vision for the future that isn't Trump bad. And we have a moral sense of, like, not supporting genocide. I don't know if we've endorsed, like, anti-AIPAC, but I don't believe that there's anyone in Courage for Democracy that has AIPAC money. Well, no, I think we have an anti-corruption pledge, and so I think taking corporate PAC money would violate that pledge. So it's really encouraging this year to have so many people that want to stand up and do the right thing. Rank and file cops know they have to have the trust of the community. They hate ICE because they ultimately make their job impossible. I hope that's true for all of them. Hi, Emma. The banquet was, it was so beautiful. And the dancing at the end was so much fun. And I got to join in on the dancing. It made a fool of myself. But everyone there was super cool and awesome. And they're always so welcoming. And I was talking to someone just like, look at how much fun and like love and peace there is in this room with all these people. And we're bombing them. I'm like, yup. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And so they were saying tonight, always like make sure that Palestine doesn't disappear from the news, because a lot of this does go back to Palestine. We spent $38 billion to give money to Israel to perpetuate. Oh, should we say genocide? I never know if I'm going to get kicked off for using trigger words or keywords. So when we can't afford healthcare, we can't afford, homeless shelters, and we can't afford food for our kids, but then we can't afford to give $40 billion to a nation that has all of those things for their citizens to murder other people that don't have that because of an interpretation of a religious text from thousands of years ago. It is just crazy that this is the world that we live in. And of course the Dems are obsessed with Donald Trump because he's an easy target, because it's a deflection from the fact that they don't have any policies of their own, that they have no ideas of their own, that they are bought off by the same corporations as the Republicans are. So there's a show called Legends of Korra. It's a sequel to Avatar: The Last Airbender, and there's a philanthropist that the Korra needs to speak to the mayor or something, and the philanthropist goes, "Oh, I can get a meeting with the mayor. I donated heavily to his campaign." And then he turns around and says to another one, to a different person, "I also heavily funded his opponent just in case they won." And like that's what happens. They fund both sides, and then somehow when the Democrats are in power, they can never get anything done. And, the Republicans are able to just, halt everything. But then suddenly when the Republicans are in power, they can just get away with everything. And the Democrats are like, oh, there's nothing we can do. And it's just like they play these polite politics. And it's just like, no, call out the, Republican leadership's hypocrisy. Like, actually take control of the messaging and stop just saying that Trump is bad. You just look like a bunch of spineless something that is appropriate to say. Yes, the Lancet study showed that Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All bill would save approximately $435 billion. I think I usually round it up to $450 billion over the course of a 10-year period while guaranteeing universal health care coverage. And, so a lot of this, though, is just propaganda. It's funny how people believe what all of these rich people say, and how people believe that, like why would rich people ever be incentivized to, and by I mean like ultra mega rich, because that is another fickle situation with human communication, is that when you are talking to someone, it is a good idea for words to be defined similarly, And so, I've had people who thought that, Congress people are rich because they make $174,000. Now, that's a lot of money. I'm not saying not a lot of money, but I wouldn't consider them rich. And so in campaigning, I've realized, like, ensuring people have the same, like, both, so it's called connotation and denotation. I learned this a few years ago, that the denotation is the dictionary definition of a word, and the connotation is, like, the emotion you associate with that word. And so most like you can screw up both of those, and if both of you do not have the same denotation and connotation for certain keywords, it can cause a lot of miscommunication, I've come to learn. So let's see, and getting rid of the batteries is a huge issue. Yup, that the Israelis get free healthcare. We don't. We can't afford it. And I mean, this war in Iran is costing us $1 billion a day. And, they're asking for another $200 billion for this, and then a $1.5 trillion war budget for next year. And then, then they come at us and say, oh, we cannot afford this, and that. And then the wealthy elites got all these tax cuts, because if we cut taxes, then the billionaires will create jobs. And then, like, Disney's firing 1,000 people. I can't remember all the companies that are firing people, but all of these companies that paid next to nothing in federal income taxes and got all of these, and some of them even got, like, more money out of coffers than they put into it. And then they still laid off workers, and they're still allowed to do that. And it is just, sorry, I'm going back and forth between responding and reading comments. They're giving Israeli bulldozers to get rid of any of the, like, remaining structures, and to clear out Gaza so that they can probably build gentrified real estate that is nothing compared to the natural beauty of what those lands used to be before Israel destroyed them all. So you need starvation, you need medical debt, you need all of these things to so it's a way of ensuring, it's a mechanism of control. If you have this system where you are forced to always provide labor to survive, and they take more and more away from a safety net, and they don't provide that security, it just opens the door for abuse and exploitation. But at least you have a job. At least I have a job. I wonder how many people have, gone home at night and cried because they just hated their job, and whether or not it wasn't fulfilling, or if it was just, emotionally abusive, would say to themselves, well, at least I have a job. That is why you need starvation and medical debt and all of these things, is because if there wasn't, then the ruling class would not be able to keep us under control. Yes, thank you with the AI. I mean, it needs to be heavily regulated. I think we should put an entire stop to it until we have those regulations in place and we have a bit more information on what the long-term impacts of AI are on, especially the youth. Because so I saw a chart somewhere that AI peaks right before, like, right around May, and then plummets mid-May to June. And so a lot of students are using AI. I think this, I don't know if this has been proven or if this is speculation, so I should disclose that. But it's been shown that it seems like, people are using AI instead of studying a way that reinforces, your critical thinking and your brain waves and all that jazz. And I want to say that there are studies that show that children that use AI versus children that study, more traditionally, the non-scientific term, even though I'm, a scientist, is their brain turns to mush. And so that concerns me. The water consumption is very concerning. And unless the people's drinking water and bathing water and like, personal hygiene, water, that needs to be guaranteed for every citizen in the country first. And then, if there's leftover water, AI can, but maybe they should have to, why don't you find a way to desalinate seawater and use that and not potable drinking water? And yeah, put these, again, until I don't think we should be moving ahead with AI until there is much more understanding of it. But in the future, if it can be done safely, like, yes, like they don't have to be. I mean, so I'm assuming the reason why they're located to all these towns is because then you can just tap in to the local plumbing and water infrastructure. If you put it out somewhere less centrally located, then you're going to have to build that infrastructure to pump the water out there. That's going to increase costs. And so you may as well put it into the backyard of people you do not care about, which typically are underserved communities, poverty-stricken communities, and majority non-white communities. And so, I mean, that is just another sign of systemic ingrained racism that has been the undertone of American politics forever. Race has always been used in this country as a way to divide the working class, and also used to very harshly target a group of people based off of their ethnicities. So we are kind of a reflection of Israel, which is unfortunate. I've had many kind of like identity crises with how our country is conducting itself, and the fact that both parties neither major party, could take a firm stand against a genocide really does not make me confident that they, as Ta-Nehisi Coates said, if you can't draw a line at genocide, how do I expect you to stand up for democracy? That's not a direct quote, that was heavily paraphrased. But after being on the campaign trail and seeing how the party, at least, the Democratic Party establishment operates in the background, it's no wonder why people are so angry, and it's no wonder why people have no faith in the political process anymore, because to a lot of these people, it is just a game. It is a game they've been playing for decades, and they know nothing else. And instead of handing the future over to the people that will inherit it, they hold on to this control, and it's, part of me just feels bad for these people. And the childish lengths that they go to maintain their power, because I don't know if they sense that their relevancy is, like, you passed your peak, it happens, it's called life, move on. Stop being so selfish and keeping the future away from the people who will inherit it. It is very frustrating. The No Kings is inspiring. If Trump is replaced with a corrupt Democrat, the movement shouldn't end, but I'm sure 50-50 would know that. So there are two organizations that throw the No Kings rallies. There's 50-51 and there's Indivisible. There are some Indivisibles that have been very progressive, very supportive, and very, future thinking. And then there's been a lot of Indivisibles that have been much more old guard and sticking to the old ways and, vote blue no matter who, unless it's Mom Donnie type style. And in Connecticut, and, organizations across states will all be different. I'm very proud of Connecticut 50-51, because during the last No Kings rally, they would not have it with CT Indivisible, which is a misnomer, because CT Indivisible is only, I think, West Hartford. But CT Indivisible platformed Blumenthal in 50-51. Connecticut was like, absolutely not. We are not going to support anyone that takes AIPAC money or has not, denounced the genocide. And so I was very pleased with 50-51 to that end. 50-51 also recognizes that this doesn't, No Kings is not the, end all and be all. It is a great way of getting people out and activated and, passionate and knowledgeable about a cause. But nothing changed. You don't go out one weekend day where the cops approve everything that you're doing in advance and there's no real disruption to the economy or whatnot. But 5051 understands that, and so they use No Kings as more of like an opportunity to educate people on how to take steps outside of protests and how they can engage the community and how they can do, mutual aid work or court accompaniment work or food recovery work or other community building endeavors. And so the upcoming event that I think could be a good test run for things is May 1st, May Day, in Hartford and New Haven. I believe New Haven is having an event from noon to 5, followed by a march. Hartford, I'm not sure what they're doing, but something similar. And so that is happening on a Friday. And so we are trying to encourage people to not shop, to not, buy anything, don't sell anything, don't use your credit cards, don't go to school, don't go to your work, take a sick day, and get as many people as possible to show that if we can collectively work together and hold our labor, that we can put a monkey wrench in the cogs of the machine and really start demanding that we have some real action taken on the working class part. Now, a one-day event is not probably going to be enough to put the pressure needed on the ruling class to act favorably. And so, ideally, I think it is on members of Congress to be working with their communities and organizing with their communities and building those communities and establishing mutual aid networks to prepare our constituents and our voters for a prolonged general strike that we have those mutual aid networks in place to ensure that people have their material needs met while not participating in the economy. And if we can achieve that, then we can go to the establishment and say, look, we have coordinated across the country to generally strike for weeks, and we are outdoing you because we have relied on our community and we built community. And once we show that we don't need them, they will have to come to the table and meet our demands. Because at the end of the day, they need us, we do not need them. Look at that CEO that got shot by Luigi Mangione. Healthcare business didn't go under. UHC didn't go under. I mean, I think their stocks took a hit, but I'm pretty sure they've recovered since then. Now, if they lost all of their workers, well, then the CEOs don't really have much they can exploit from. That's probably why they're trying to replace everyone with AI, because AI does allow them to replace human labor, and again, that is another reasons why. So I don't necessarily think I don't trust. I distrust AI a lot. I've seen those movies all with AI, and it never ends well. But I think the thing that makes me really not trust AI is capitalism, because. So I love how a lot of people are like, oh, AI is going to help us not to have to work as much. It's like, no, it's going to force us to not work at all, but not in the way where we all get to stay home and, just soak up the sun with some fruit juice and with some calm music in the background. No, we're going to be unemployed, unable to afford housing, kicked onto the streets, and then in prison for being homeless because they're going to use AI to replace people. And there was a commercial at the Super Bowl where Matthew Broderick was like, oh, use AI, and, take the afternoon off. Just like, we've seen this happen in history before, is the computer revolution and the internet revolution. Because I always wondered, well, not always, but I often wondered, what did people do in the 90s and the late 80s, early 90s before the computer, before the internet? And I realized they did probably similar things. They just did not have the tools of the internet or the tools of the computer to achieve those tasks. So then when they did, and they quadrupled their productivity, they just fired half of the employees. So then employees were doing double the amount of work, getting paid just as much, and half the workforce was fired. we're just going to see the same exact thing with AI. And so that is, to me, one of the hallmarks of a capitalistic economy is that the end all and be all motivating factor of everyone's daily actions are the profit driven motive. And when your only drive is to make profit, at some point, you either have to exploit labor and underpay them, or you have to reduce the quality of the good or service that you are providing. And so that is one of the reasons why I am anti-capitalist. Martin Luther King Jr. was very anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-militarist, anti-materialist. And we all forget about that, well, because we're never taught it, because they whitewash that and just focus on the I have a dream speech, and the moral arc of the universe always bends towards justice, and an injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. But then they leave out the radical parts of, not wanting the capitalist system that continues to suppress people and, sells them freedom, and it's not actually freedom. No one in this country is really that free. We are all controlled by someone or something, and step out of line and you could lose that. And so this is why I want to move towards a system where everyone's basic needs are guaranteed, because to me, that is freedom. That is freedom. That's what we should be striving for, not just Trump bad. Oh, the Congress people? Oh, yes. If you just get, yes, $174,000 is a shit ton of money. I wouldn't say it makes you rich. It makes you wealthy, but I wouldn't say it makes you, rich. But, so I take Rosa DeLauro and take, a lot of the Democrats. They will not sign onto the Restore Trust in Congress Act, which would ban insider trading. And so someone like Rosa DeLauro has not used it, but I don't believe her husband has to disclose his financial earnings, but it's estimated that he's worth some $30 million. Is he getting information from Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro? I don't know, but how can you, what is the explanation for not signing on to, ban members from Congress from trading stocks? If you're not engaging in that behavior, there's no reason not to sign on to that, and it's not like it's a violation of your right. You should not be able to trade stock knowing the information that you know. It is just a conflict of interest, and part of being a public servant is sacrifice. And if you can't sacrifice that little thing, then what can we possibly rely on you to sacrifice? During the pandemic, I used Robinhood to buy a bunch of stocks, and I think I had $2,000 or $3,000 worth of stock, and I sold all of it because I'm but the day before I ran, I announced around, I'm selling all my stocks. Again, it was $3,000 or something. And I was it's all gone. It all has to go, because I don't ever want anyone to have to question, am I making a decision based off of what would help my stocks? Again, not that it was a lot, but still. So this year I heard a lot of people so I had to defer filing for my taxes. I'm pretty sure because I resigned from my position the last 3 months of the year, October, November, that they would owe me money. So I think technically by me not filing taxes, they are borrowing money interest-free from me. But I hate having to fund this bullshit. And any that's why I think May 1st is so important, is because any participation in the economy goes to fund war and genocide, because, the state of Connecticut gives, contracts to Colt, which sends money over to, that sends weapons over to Israel. And where does Connecticut get that money? From our taxes. Probably from, sales tax, gas tax, any property tax, it all. I'm not 100% versed on how taxes are transferred through the system to make it to these places, but I believe there are various avenues that are all funded through different consumption, property, or income taxes. Let's see, what else we got? I realize how states a part of the Appalachian region go by the phone. Okay, so that is one of those things that it's just not true. In Europe, I think the adjusted minimum wage or something is like $26, and the cheeseburger, the Big Mac, is only an extra like $1 compared to us or something. It's not that outrageous, and again, it's coming from the people that would lose out on money. So again, this is where I think that we can legislate. We have a minimum wage. Let's have a maximum wage. Let us cap CEO pay at 31 times their lowest paid employee. And now, so that is income tax, and so there are various ways around that. But sorry, I just got a text message and throws me off a little bit. I should have this on non-focus, but I wanted to jump on quickly since I was running very late. I'll look at that later. Although I saw the other day that someone had it was like a meme saying that minimum wage was $7.25, and like a pretzel in Pennsylvania was $7.35, and it's literally like you have to work an entire hour to get a pretzel. That is just dehumanizing on so many levels. So let's see. My friend works at the sheriff's office and makes $7.25 in Kentucky. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. When is the war going to end? I mean, it's never going to end if we keep, any politician that voted in favor of the $960 billion Imperial War budget back in December, they all need to be replaced. Rosa DeLauro is one of them. And tucked in that bill was actually a provision to auto-register people for the draft. And so it is very infuriating, again, to see all of our tax dollars sent overseas. We do not need $1 trillion for a war budget. We are a nation that is situated between two major oceans, and for now allies to our north and south. And so to defend the homeland would be much less expensive than $1 trillion. I would like to see studies done to see what that number would be, but if we keep funding wars, if you keep putting this, you don't fund this much money into these things if you don't want them to continue on. And so until we really get rid of establishment Democrats and Democrats that are beholden to the corporate interests that fund them, I don't think these wars are ever going to end. Oh yeah, and Kamala, I'm sure she's gonna run again in 2 years. She could have. I do hate seeing those signs that are like, oh, if Kamala was president, I'd be at brunch right now. People still would not have universal health care. There would still be a genocide going on in Palestine. She was saying that Iran is the biggest threat to the United States. And so, again, a lot of the times, the Democrats are just much more polite about their imperialism and their capitalism and corporatism and, well, kind of fascism, because even Mussolini said that fascism should be called corporatism because it is when corporate and state needs merge. And look at what's happening. 5051 does make you promise to be nonviolent. I don't know is destruction of property considered? I don't know if destruction of property is in the nonviolent clause, because destruction of property is not violence. Violence has to be committed against a living being, I believe. But I mean, as we've seen from all of the tissue roll, the toilet paper roll company that got lit on fire, people always get a little bit more outraged when property is destroyed than when humans are annihilated. We're seeing that. I've seen that in Connecticut too, with the Trump I Did It stickers. So someone was saying that the polling is so hard to tell, especially after how they didn't really completely fuck it up in 2016. They were just a little bit more confident. I mean, I think all the polls were still within margin of errors, but recently it seems like they're getting less and less accurate. And, people do say, if you are targeting mostly landlines, those are probably going to be, skewed to older generations that tend to be more right or Republican versus younger people. Younger people don't always answer their phones. I know I don't, and I probably should be more often. I don't know if his approval ratings are really 40%, but they don't seem to be budging, and that is, would you support statehood or independence for Puerto Rico? I would support a referendum where Puerto Rico can decide their own fate. If they would like statehood, then we move forward with statehood. If they want independence, then we relinquish their sovereignty back to them and probably pay reparations for the damage that the imperial government has done to Puerto Rico. But I'm not about forcing that onto Puerto Rico. The decision needs to be left to them. So yeah, a referendum for either. I mean, so almost every time that oil is discovered or a country wants to nationalize any of their natural resources, within a couple of years, there is some sort of CIA intervention and right-wing governments start rising in these areas, usually propped up by American weapons and CIA intervention. And so, Maduro said that he had all this oil. We go in, I guess in 2001, Saddam Hussein said that he wants to nationalize the oil supply. And then, we found weapons of mass destruction that were never there and invaded. In, I think, 2010, Muammar Gaddafi wanted to move away from the petrodollar and create, an African gold dollar. And then 2 years later, we overthrow Libya. And so the capitalist system in this country has tended to exploit predominantly southern hemisphere nations for those natural resources that they instill the right-wing governments that then hoard the resources, keep a portion just for themselves, and then sell off the rest of them for dirt cheap for capitalist interests. And, unfortunately, every time, I bought an iPhone, not recently, but when I did, the last time I bought this iPhone, we actually did get an iPhone for the campaign. That's probably resources taken from Congo. Anytime you buy any sort of electronic, it's probably some sort of extracted resource. And so it would be interesting to understand the full impact of how our buying, what we buy, how we buy it, how often we buy it, impacts other nations across the world. Of course, Matthew Broderick's net worth is 200. Oh, yeah. I mean, that that is another reason why we should not have celebrity worship, because it, like, I mean, I remember at a time I was like, oh my god, that person does that, oh cool. And I was like, why are you selling a product to me? Like, just act, just do your acting, just that's your job, do that. You don't have to sell me perfume or boxers. And it's really annoying when actors become models, become musicians, become this, and have to have their own makeup lines and clothing lines and shoe lines and all these lines. It's just like, can you just act? Thank you. Karen Ortiz is running for New York's 12th district as an independent. She is fantastic. She is wonderful. And of course, she's getting blowback from the system harder than any of us. Because even like, I give you so many props for running as an independent. I don't know if I could handle that after getting what you get from the DNC within it. At least they try and, convince me to play their game. I'm sure with you, they're just like completely... Sorry, Yoshi's giving me dirty looks. Yup, Eisenhower warned us about the military-industrial complex. We didn't listen. That you're taking advantage of insider trading. Yes. Yep. Oh, wow. How far behind am I? Oh, thank you. So yeah, I apologize for being late, but I do want to always make sure that voters and constituents and people have an opportunity to ask me questions in real time, at least once a week for an hour. Again, just so that people have an hour. I can't be everywhere all at once, but I can be one place at one time for people to come to me from the comfort of their own home. Convenience. When there are signs that the No Kings protest about, we could have had Kamala, like, they just try the bat. Yes. The thank you. But yeah, so, I mean, right now I'm getting pushback from some DTCs about going onto the ballot. My own DTC chair, I don't understand what she is doing. It's a bit childish and unfortunate, but there does seem to be a lot of corruption in the Democratic Party. There is someone at a high level of state government that has been pressuring DTC chairs in one of the congressional districts to not provide any votes at convention to a challenger. And so the Democratic Party, the establishment Democratic Party, does not seem to really care that much about democracy. They are going to try and prevent all of us from getting onto the ballot. So we are most likely going to have to go through the ballot petition process that begins on April 28th. And I mean, in California, I think they're trying to kick the Green Party candidate off of the ballot. I know that happened several years ago in North Carolina where they tried to kick the Green Party off the ballot. And so the Democrats like rigging primaries. It's just very, it's very contradictory that they talk about the SAVE Act, which is an atrocious act, but then also try and peddle, this interference with, oh, of course. So I have a DTC chair that is trying to say that someone is speaking with the authority of the campaign when this person was a volunteer that just joined, and she's creating quite the narrative, and it's just, of course, the Democrats would rather focus on trying to, what were the falsified documents about against Butchware about? because I just imagine that they're bullshit, because, I mean, the establishment Democrats have just kind of shown over and over again that they are a bunch of liars. Oh, the concept of anything as a barrier to entry. Wait, I'm not. The concept of tax returns as a barrier to entry in a post-Citizens United world is laughable and quaint. Oh, yes. Butch Ware is accused of providing faulty tax returns. Oh. So, this is what drives me crazy about the Democrats. They'll go through all these lanes to assassinate someone's character, but not actually go after them for any of their policy points or any sort of decision that could affect a policy decision. So like, if you like taking money from corporations that have contracts with ICE, questioning why you accept money from corporations that do have contracts with ICE, Rosa DeLauro, I would not consider that character assassination. I would consider that a conflict of interest in her ability to, represent the needs of constituents and not corporations. Oh, this guy, what is it, accused of providing faulty tax returns? I'm also faulty tax. Did anyone ever see that meme that's like, you have to tell us how much taxes you owe us, and it's like, and then they say, but you know how much I owe, and the federal government goes, well, yeah, just tell us, and you go, okay, I think it's 200, and then the federal government goes, wrong, you're under arrest. It's like, they don't teach us how to do our tax returns, and then we have to do our tax returns, but they already know the money. Citizens impeachment does endorse 50-51. I don't know if the state, I don't believe the state levels, or different states have different rules depending on if they're incorporated or not. So I don't know the individual rules for each state. But it is 10-11. And a redacted phone number or something. The Democrats also just went on a whole rant about Graham Plattner and something, and it's just like, they never focus on a person's policy. They never make it a debate about policy. They always try and find some way to make the other person look bad. I've been dealing with it myself. It's frustrating, but not unexpected. But it is 10-11. I believe we've been here for about an hour. It is late, so I do have to give Yoshi some of his well-earned time. He does a lot for the campaign. Yes, the Democrats love smearing. They love going through smear campaigns. That is their bread and butter, because when you don't have anything, when you don't have policy you can sell, all you can hope for is to make people hate you. And that's why Trump keeps winning, because that is all they can do. They can just smear. But I will take one last question if anyone has a question. If not, then thank you. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you sharing information and asking questions. So yeah, if no one else has any questions, we'll wrap it up. And take care, everyone. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week. Or if there's any events throughout the week that I go to and you're local, please drop by. It'd be good to see people in person. Have a good night, everyone.